man's heart is full of hate. He butthurts, cries, and a dark shadow falls over this troll. From the ashes of a once great fandom has risen a meme, an LOL that must be liked. We look to the airwaves for a vindicator, someone to strike fear in the dark basement of the parents who created him. The battle between fan and smark has begun. With a head on his shoulders stands the smark fan, a speaker of truths, with a voice of silence, and a radio show of justice. This is Ring Rust.
Backlash on the WWE Network this coming Sunday from the Richmond Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia. Or, on pay-per-view if you are really determined to pay extra for it. That's your prerogative, I suppose. So we got 6 matches, even though 2 of them are directly connected, so I'm probably just going to preview the 2 of them together. So effectively, in that way, there's 5 matches. Actually 6. So far, still 6. We'll see what comes in the coming days before Backlash. But, at any rate, there doesn't seem to be a pre-show match, so I imagine there'll be one added, most likely, I guess. Or maybe maybe one of those tag team matches will be added to the pre-show, and then, who knows. At any rate, starting off, so we have The Miz defending his WWE Intercontinental Championship against Dolph Ziggler. As much as I like Dolph Ziggler, I don't really see The Miz losing his title to Dolph Ziggler. Not quite yet. I think this is his first time, challenging for the title. So generally speaking, unless it's to determine the first ever champion of something, someone wrestling for the title for the first time generally isn't going to win it. Generally speaking. Now, of course, there are exceptions. Like every rule, there are exceptions to it, but I just don't see it. I wouldn't be surprised or disappointed in literally any way possible if Dolph Ziggler were to win it and get another Intercontinental Championship reign, but hey, we'll see how it turns out. I'm still going to predict The Miz defending his title, though. You're listening to Ring Rust Redux on Gerbonology TV. This is Fanboy Mark Jabroni. You're listening to Ring Rust. So back to the WWE Backlash for this coming Sunday on the WWE Network. If, of course, you're choosing to do things by the completely legal means. Which is preferable unless you're a fornicating, microscopic female dog. Okay, what's the curse word that means fornicating? What's a 5-letter word 6-letter word, actually, that is the same as microscopic? Well, that one I can give you. It's little. And female dog, what's the 5-letter word that's technically a curse word that means female dog? Fornicating, microscopic female dog is what you'd be. So, onward and upward. The next match sees Randy Orton taking on Bray Wyatt in a really not much of anything match, except, hey, let's punch each other in the face a bunch of times and see who wins. Well, okay. Then, God, could someone did you give him an incomplete script or something? He keeps stopping as though he's trying to remember what he's got to say. I don't believe either of them would really be hurt majorly by losing this match, like momentum-wise. I mean, they're both in a moderately good place in their careers. They're, it's like Randy Orton's not going to get hurt, not going to lose momentum or quote-unquote job, you fornicating microscopic female dogs who don't work in the wrestling industry, who use our terms. So, I don't think either would be hurt from losing this match. Neither would necessarily be overly benefited, I suppose, either by winning the match, but, well, not that they wouldn't benefit, I guess, but they'd, in theory anyway, be put that much closer to the championship contention because that's theoretically how it works. I think maybe, unless Randy Orton wants to be majorly, like, on a winning streak of some kind, not a winning streak necessarily, but he probably looked that much better going to into his rematch with Brock Lesnar at a live event that isn't televised in any way. Shrug. He'd probably come out on top of this match, I guess, but, it's probably, I would prefer to see anyway, Bray Wyatt coming out on top of this one. So that's going to be my prediction. You're listening to Ring Rust Redux on Jabronology TV. Alright then, this is Fanboy Mark Jabroni. You're listening to Ring Rust. So next up, from Backlash, this coming Sunday, from the Richmond Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia. I think I probably said it wrong the first time. Richmond. I don't think that's how you pronounce it. But anyway, Richmond, I think. Moving forward. So next up, we have a 6-pack elimination challenge for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. Would that be a 12-pack? Am I being sexist again? Nikki Bella versus Natalya versus Naomi versus Carmella versus Alexa Bliss versus the one I believe is probably going to come out on top, fingers crossed anyway, because they keep saying you can't win a championship if you're on Total Divas, and I have to assume it goes double if you're on Total Bellas. Well, because they're going to show you on Total Divas with your belt, because it does show backstage stuff and it shows some wrestling. It's last time I saw it anyway. I haven't seen it since the first season, but I assume they're still doing that. And I assume that's still a thing, where if you're on Total Divas / Total Bellas, you're not going to win a title. So, right now I think there's only one person on Total Bellas who's going to potentially win a title, and he's close to retiring from what I hear. So, anyway, and Nikki might, who knows, she could. So Nikki Bella, Natalya last I heard, Naomi presumably, are all on Total Divas. Alexa Bliss is sort of just newly there, as is Carmella. So I'm going to predict Becky Lynch. If I can have your attention, please. I just received an email from the ridiculous Ring Rust general manager. What part of that was where I was supposed to loudly exclaim woo-hoo? I think you're thinking of Song 2 by Blur. I could be mistaken. Though I do believe I'm not mistaken in assuming that you're an idiot.
You're listening to wrestling superstar, the Triple X Sex Express Sexy Eddie, and you're listening to Ring Rust, the one and only wrestling talk radio show.
So the next two matches are kind of interconnected, so I'm just going to talk about them together. So we have the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, taking on the Hype Bros, Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley, in a tag team match to qualify for the tag team tournament final, which is later in the night, because the winner of that match is going to be taking on Heath Slater and Rhino, who I called, you know me, I like making up tag team names, I called them Redneck and No Neck, because I don't think I really need to explain it. Anyway, so I think the Usos are going to win the qualifying match, but it's still a bit of a toss-up as to who's going to win going to become the inaugural, I guess, SmackDown Tag Team Champions. The first time, I guess. Well, because they had the WWE Tag Team Championships and they had the World Tag Team Championships. One was on Raw and one was on SmackDown. So, essentially they were the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, but anyway, and Raw Tag Team Championships, but that's how I differentiate it. I don't know about anybody else. So now the second ever first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champions, I predict, will be none other than Heath Slater and Rhino. Because they're putting actual production value behind these guys. So they're obviously, at the very least, having fun with it. WWE saying, oh my God, what are we going to do next? What can we do next? Oh my God. Can we give them 25 children now? Or, so fingers crossed, that's how it turns out. I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed if either of those three teams won the tag team championships, really. But I do predict Jimmy and Jay Uso, since they just recently started twirling their handlebar mustaches as the newly christened Snidely Whiplashes of WWE, are probably going to win their match. But I think, though, they'll probably be better feuding with the tag team champions than as the tag team champions. I don't know. Well, again, we'll see, and I wouldn't be really disappointed. But that's how I call it. That's how I see it.
Ha ha ha! Cookies on dowels.
It says right here, diagnosis, fractured ass.
This is Fanboy Mark Gironi. You're listening to Ring Rust. So the last match for WWE Backlash this coming Sunday, September 11th, hashtag never forget, at the Richmond Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia, sees Dean Ambrose defending his World Heavyweight Championship against AJ Styles. So again, first time AJ Styles is challenging for the title, so I don't see it happening. But you never know. Never say never, as a certain Canadian with a floopy sort of hairstyle would say. Not on this show, of course, but that's what he'd say. Musically, of course. But anyway, that's what I see. I see Dean Ambrose defending his title. Maybe one of these days, certainly one of these days, I should imagine, or else WWE's going to think, it's like, well, why did we spend all this money on AJ Styles if he isn't earning the title? So, fingers crossed for AJ Styles fans that that's what it's going to be, but I predict, though, like I said, it's going to be Dean Ambrose successfully defending.
This is 93.5 CHMR FM.
Like me on Facebook, tinyurl.com/ringrust. Follow me on Twitter @MarkGibroni, and subscribe to Jabronology TV, youtube.com/fanboymarkgibroni. Ring Rust presents Macho Facts. Randy Savage once shot down a German plane with his finger by yelling, "Bang!" And what's going through a Macho Man opponent's mind before they die? His elbow. This is Fabio Mark Gibroni. You're listening to Ring Rust. So, it's time for this week's marking out for the Cruiserweight Championship, Cruiserweight Classic. It's the second last week of the inaugural. I'm sure there's going to be more. They've actually pretty much confirmed there's going to be more. The inaugural Cruiserweight Classic. So, this week's episode saw Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Noam Dar, and T.J. Perkins defeating Rich Swann. The match of the show was actually the first match, so I found it it was quite the match. It was lots of flying and kicking and punching, and anything you can do, I can do better. And yeah, if you haven't seen this week's episode yet, by all means go watch it on the WWE Network or however you want to watch it. Or, if you haven't seen the whole thing yet, what are you waiting for? It's almost over. So, anyway, I liked, best of all, the two matches. I liked, of course, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Noam Dar. I'm sure they're all going to end up with contracts at some point, so no complaints. It's like the first Diva Search. They hired literally every contestant from the Diva Search. Well, the finalists who actually got on Raw. They hired all of them, and so they had various levels of success. So, and some of them are still doing things in wrestling. Not all, but that's the nature of the beast. Not everyone's going to be cut out for it. So, I look forward to seeing more of it. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing more singles and tag team matches featuring Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, who were in the opening round, face-off against each other. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes, who wins it, and seeing all these guys wrestling on Raw when the Cruiserweight division opens up there. You're listening to Ring Rust Redux on Jabronology TV. So that's it for the preview for Backlash this coming Sunday on the WWE Network. So on to some news. Despite Billy Corgan's new role with the company, John Garberick, anyway, appears to still be in charge of Impact Wrestling Creative. It's interesting to note, however, that Matt Hardy's the one booking what he and Jeff Hardy are doing within the company. So he's the one responsible for the whole Brother Nero and the final deletion and all that stuff. So, interesting.
Mine's bigger than yours, haha. Oh, that's gotta sting.
Clean up in aisle 3.
Like me on Facebook, tinyurl.com/ringrust. Follow me on Twitter @MarkJabroni. And subscribe to Jabronology TV, youtube.com/fanboymarkjabroni. That's it for another show, kiddies. Check me out on Facebook, where you can keep track of all the news that's right on the mark, from around ringside to the latest concerts. See you at the shows. Later days.
This is 93.5 CHMR FM.